Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado, and this is my buddy Puccini. He keeps me company in the craft room and generally gets into things he shouldn't. And I have a very fun card for you today using the True Beauty suite. I haven't but made one card with that suite, and I've got a pretty one here, and the sentiment on this one just says, hey there. So let's just get started. Okay, here is my card, and I'm going to change things up just a little bit. Let me show you the inside. It's really pretty simple, and I have just the simplest of designs on the inside. Now you could add more. You could have your hey there and then happy birthday here or thinking of you or any number of things. But let me tell you what you need to make this card. I used a Blackberry Bliss Base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have a piece of this paper that came from the Awash in Beauty suite, and this is some of the paper that I'm using for this one. It has a pretty little green pattern on the back, and then I'm changing up the flowers because on this card what I did was I fussy cut out several of these flowers down here, and for this card I decided to use this paper in that suite, and rather than cut out a whole bunch of little flowers, I'm fussy cutting out this set of flowers, which is going to go down here on the bottom. So I'm using this piece, and this piece is 3 inches by, looks like 4 1/8, and it's to go across here. And then I cut 2 different ones of this pattern. This die is called Organic Beauty Dies, and there's the lattice. And I cut 1 sheet of this paper out of the gold foil, and then I cut 1 out of the distressed gold. And on this card I used the distressed gold, and then I actually put a few of the pieces back in on this one. And so on this one I'm going to use this piece of gold foil paper that I have cut. And to cut this piece, what I did was, using this side, from this to this, I cut off like right here. So you can see that down on the second, there's kind of a half of a diamond here, and then the first full diamond, and I cut straight across the first full diamond, but I left in the end piece, and then I just trimmed that down so that I got this piece that looks like this. So it's got the one with 6 points across the top and 5 along the bottom, and I cut these pieces off here at the bottom. And I'm going to use that to set across here. That's why this piece needed to be 4 1/8, so this just fit across here and didn't go above or below this piece. And that's going to be put on our card just like this. Here's our sample. Then I've cut my piece, fussy cut out my piece from the other paper, and that's going to go right down here. And then the ribbon I used was this Parakeet Party. It's not exactly the same color green, but it adds a little bit of sparkle, and I thought it looked pretty good. And then I used champagne rhinestones. And on this one, I backed this little piece of 3 by 4 1/8 paper with pumpkin pie because of the orange here. Thought that looked kind of interesting. And since then, I've decided that this Calypso Coral works just a little bit better. So this Calypso Coral piece is cut 4 1/4 by 3 1/8. And then that centers right on this piece like this. And I think that's a better match for the orange on there. Although the pumpkin pie looks okay, I thought that this Calypso Coral matched it a little bit better. So what we're going to end up with is something that looks like this across here with this down here. And then my sentiment, I used this little Hey There stamp, and this comes from a stamp set that's called Charming Sentiments. And here is Charming Sentiments. Now the thing that makes Charming Sentiments unique is that the die set actually cuts out each of these little sentiments as though you had fussy cut it. And I found them hard to line up. I will be honest with you. So I've already done mine, and I can tell you that in order to get this out right, and we'll stamp it and I'll show you how to line up this die so you have the best chance of getting this to come out right. And I'll show you exactly how that works. So I used the stamps, and I used the Hey There from this stamp set, and then I used the dies from the Organic Beauty die set here. And on the inside of this, I used another strip of that paper. And then when I cut my piece from right across here, I ended up with the piece at the top here. Let's see, I may have to turn that around to get it to line up exactly. There we go. To line up like that. And you end up cutting right across here. So this piece that I cut off on this end is what I ended up putting on the inside of the card. Okay, so let's see here. And we'll just kind of go ahead and start putting this together, because once you get all of this stuff done, it's really pretty easy. Let me start with the stamping. So I've got a piece of scrap white here, and I've got my stamp, and I used Blackberry Bliss ink, and I put my Hey There stamp in here and got this inked up really well, and then just put it a little bit inside of the corners here so that I could put my die around it. These are the dies, and they're called Sentiment Silhouette dies. And I think that this one right here is this. Yep, that's the right one. They're kind of hard to figure out, but I'm going to show you here exactly how I line this up. I have just a little piece of what's called Crafter's Essential, and it's just a clear purple sticky tape that helps hold your die in place. And what I found was that when you put this die in place, and I'm going to bring this up so you can see this, because it's not the simplest thing to line up. On this, what I did when I looked down on it this way, I could see just the bare bottom of the T and the H, and I could see on this end the little outline of the H for Hey There, and on this side I could see a little bit of that exclamation point and the dot below it. And when I put it in that way, it doesn't cut too high or too low, and it comes out practically perfectly centered. So let me just make sure that I've got that on here just exactly the way I think I want it. And I don't want to be able to see the white above the there. And if I do this just right, and I can see part of that exclamation point, and I can see part of this comma, I probably have this on here pretty well centered. So I can see a little bit of the H for the hey there. I can see a little bit of the exclamation point, and then it needs to come down far enough that I can see a little bit of the dot underneath the exclamation point. I can't see any white above the TH, and I can't see quite the bottom of the there. And so there we go. I think that's it. I'm going to move off camera. I've already got one cut, but I want to see if that setup works the way I think. So there's my piece cut. I'm going to pull this off, and there it is, relatively well centered. So you see the bottom of all of the letters, nothing's cut off. It's pretty even side to side, and it looks pretty good top to bottom. So when you can see, as you put your die on there, a little bit of this exclamation point, the top of the dot, you can't see above to the white here, you can't see below the letters here, and you get a tiny bit of this H on this side. That is perfectly lined up, and you can also see a little bit of this comma. And if you get it set up that way, I know it because I did this about 6 times until I could tell you that's how you line it up to get it to come out right. See, on the one on the card, I came too far over this way, so I have a little bit more of a line on there. And see how close I was on the Y on the bottom? This one is much better. And here I cut off some of those letters on the bottom. So that is the way to line this up so that it comes out right. I did it enough times so that I could show you reliably the best way to set that up. Okay, so let's put our card together. Once you get the pieces cut, this is very, very fast little card. So I'm going to put my die away here, and then we're going to start putting this together. The first thing I'm going to do is adhere these two pieces together. And so I'm going to take my seal, and I'm going to put a bead of seal across the top and the bottom, and a little bit here in the center. And I'm going to center this. And this paper really doesn't have much of a directional view, but some of it seemed a little bit more straight up with the stems going up, some of the flowers facing up, than the other way. So look at it and decide for yourself what you think, but I thought that worked out pretty well. And so there's my mat for my floral piece here. This piece is going to go up on dimensionals. Okay, now this was put a little bit above center and meant to go, it goes, I think, all the way across the card, like that. There we go. And then this piece I just put on my silicone mat on here, and I used my dot runner. And I just did the tips and the X crossings of all of these little pieces, and I put the 6 points on this versus the 5 points on the bottom to the top of my card and put that in place so that it's centered top to bottom and right to left, and it covers just the designer series paper. And there we go. Now this piece is going to also take some dimensionals. Okay, now this piece is going to go right along the bottom here. Oh, I guess I should have, yep, I need to take a couple of these off because they're actually going to sit on the card itself. And then the dimensionals really only need to be on the more bottom pieces to make this be the same size. So dimensionals from here down and just a little bit of snail on the top, and there you go, you've got that piece. Now when I cut these out, you get a ton of these little diamond pieces that that cut out. So I took a couple of the shiny ones from the foil and a couple of this distressed gold from the distressed gold one that I cut out for this card. And what I'm going to do is add some adhesive to the back of these, and believe me, you get a billion of these when you cut out those, and so it's kind of fun to have them to do something with. So I wanted to take one of these that is the distressed gold and put a little bit of snail on it and get it to fill in one of these diamond shapes. I think that just adds a little bit of interest. Then I'm going to take one that is the gold foil, and these I'm just randomly picking spots to put these in. And then I have a couple of pieces left of the distressed gold that I thought was kind of fun to put in one of those spots at the top so that it fits right in here, and that's going to require like a little dimensional at the top to be able to be supported off of the edge of that. There we go, like that. And then I thought it would be kind of fun to take one of these gold ones and continue that pattern just above it to the side and lay that one down flat, just to add something a little bit different. Let me get another distressed gold one of those, since I have an unlimited supply, because when you cut one of these, there's just a ton of it there. And put that one on this side of that there. And I think it just adds a little something. And then I'm going to take my my sentiment here that I did, and I'm going to put that also up on mini dimensionals. Then I'm going to put my hay there right down here on the bottom of the card, and there is my card outside. Isn't that pretty? Very nice. All right, now for the inside of this card, what I have is a piece of basic white that is 4 by 5 1/4, and so I've got that ready to go down on the inside of my card. And so right inside here, centered on the inside of my card. There we go. And then I've got my strip of the designer series paper. Let me get a few of these things pushed off to the side here. I'm afraid I've got kind of a, end up with almost no space. It encroaches. All right, so now I've got this, and I'm just going to add some snail to the back of my strip of paper and put that in place here. And this is 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/4. And then I have this little piece of that foil paper that was left, and again, I'm just going to put a little bit of dot runner down on that. And oops, that's not trimmed away. So let me trim this little piece off here, because this end is already trimmed off, so I have to trim that rather than leave it on there. And I want to center this on the side here, just to bring a little bit of the outside of the card to the inside. And there we go. We have our pieces here. Now I can take one of these foil pieces and cut it exactly in half. So that one will fit if I trim off a little bit. And I only just want one of these in here just to match that outside just a little bit. It just needs to be trimmed to fit. And there we go. So I've got one of them filled in. All right, there we go. So that is my project, except for my bling. So let me get a little bit of the gold rhinestones out here. Oh, and my ribbon. All right, so now I'm going to add just a couple of these champagne gold rhinestones. Have you noticed how the champagne gold just seems to go with everything? I think it's amazing. Let me pull those out of there just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to add one of these very large ones down here from the bottom into the center of my rose here. And then I'm going to add, oh, maybe a medium now that I've got these flower centers I can use. And then I'm going to add 3 more of these little ones, so I put a total of 5 on here. Just around maybe put one up here, and then maybe one more, oh, maybe down here. Okay, there we go. All right, and then my parakeet party, what I did was I cut off, oh, a double strand here, so that each strand would come out to be about 8 inches, and cut that off. Oh, not the sharpest scissors in my arsenal here, and I don't have my ribbon scissors handy. All right, so there we go. I've got the 2 pieces, the 2 strands of ribbon, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm just going to make just a small bow here for the bottom of the card. On this little ribbon, it just seems like a double strand makes more sense because they're so small. The pieces are so small, and I don't want a giant bow anyway, and so I think something like that will work. And then I'm going to separate these 2 loops for my bows and separate them so you can see that it's 2, and then cut these off on the bottom. I'm gonna get a different pair of scissors here. There's my ribbon scissors. That'll do it. So cut those off just down along the bottom, and then take a couple of glue dots. And I'm trying to see where that ribbon is going to look the best. Oh, maybe just right down here on top of that flower set. And I'm going to take a couple of glue dots and set them one on top of the other, just a little bit offset, so that I get two glue dots, but they're sort of half one on top of the other. So I just get a little extended gluing surface there, and then I can add my bow right on top of that glue dot, a couple of glue dots that I put down there. And now you can see that I've got two different bow loops, and I'll just have to separate these a little bit, and then my ribbons down here and my bling. And so there we go. That is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. It's always a good idea to join Stampin' Up! If you order some on a monthly basis, you'll find that you're probably already close to doing enough to order your minimum. And if you sign up now, your first minimum isn't due until the end of December. So that gives you a nice running start at making your first minimum, which gets you through the first quarter at the very least of next year, which includes Celebration and a new catalog. So that again is my project. My prize draw for the month is always a $60 shopping spree on me. And you can put yourself in the drawing by placing an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net. You can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. That's it for me, and I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!